This house had zero curb appeal. With overgrown shrubs, moldy gutters, janky stairs, and dated light fixtures, it was in need of some serious love. So today, I'm gonna show you 10 upgrades for instant curb appeal that you can do on a budget with just a little, or maybe a lot of sweat equity. All right, I'm gonna start knocking down these shrubs because these things are so overgrown. You can't even see part of the stairs, and honestly, the garden bed is about halfway into here. So I'm gonna start cutting these back, but getting a manicured front garden bed and landscaping has gotta be one of the easiest rewards for curb appeal. So I was a little bit worried about this. These have gotten so overgrown. When you cut them back, and I'm not even back far enough where I wanna be yet, is they start getting really woody. The leaves are just not there anymore. Unfortunately, I'm probably gonna have to pull these out, but we'll do a little bit more trim and see how they look and then call it from there. And here's a tip that I forgot to do, and that is using a tarp. Whenever you're cutting back hedges or shrubs and you've got just this stuff is just everywhere, laying down a tarp first and cutting onto that, then you can pull it all away and just funnel it into bags later. Forgot to do that, but remembered now, so I'll go ahead and get this installed. And here's the beauty of using the tarp. I can just take all this stuff I cut and haul it away. All right, so I did a little bit of research on the boxwoods, and when I mean a little bit of research, I mean I asked ChatGPT, like we all do. It's basically saying, yes, you could cut these back almost all the way, but it works better for younger ones, and if it is pretty woody already, that it is not gonna do well. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to take these out. They got too far gone. So pulling out shrubs, especially ones that have been around for a while, can be a pain in the butt, but a shovel and maybe a crowbar will come in super handy, but I'm not gonna use either of those. What I'm gonna use is in my pocket here. Let's see here. The key to my tractor. That's right, we're gonna do it the easy way and pop these things out and hopefully not destroy everything while I'm at it. And you can also do this with a truck. You can hook this up to your tow hitch, but just be careful. Don't like go peeling out and then, you know, it slingshots and breaks out your window. For each of these upgrades, I'm gonna give you a little price breakdown, but I am gonna assume that you have most of the basics around, like weed eater, hedge trimmer, and just some basic supplies. Now for this first project, tearing out the shrubs, it is basically free, just some sweat equity, but if you do have to replace them, obviously it's gonna be about 30 bucks or more per shrub, so it'll vary based upon your garden. All right, so number one wasn't as easy as I had thought it might be. If your bushes are slightly overgrown, that's okay, trim them down. But if you have a huge bush, maybe just call the guy or, you know, get a tractor, do something. But this was 4, 5, 6, 27 hours of hard work. I'm sweating my face off, and if that didn't earn a subscription, I don't know what does. So go ahead and get subscribed. Let's go to an easy one next. Next up, I want to take care of another eyesore, which is the gutters. Now, we have some downspouts here that got some vines on them. We also have some vines grown over on the other side of the house, but we just have a lot of mildew and algae that has been growing on the gutter downspouts as well as the actual gutter. So I'm gonna try to knock all that off. We're gonna spray some algae killer on there, and then I'm gonna pressure wash them, and then we'll see how it works. I'm hoping it will not leave a bunch of residue, but we'll see. Oh yeah. Got the pressure washer out, and this one's a fairly powerful model. It goes up to 3,400 PSI, so you wanna be careful that you just don't go blasting, you know, holes and stuff and ripping off bricks. So I'm gonna start with the 40-degree tip on here, which is the least aggressive. I actually tried to use the pickup tube to put some of that algae remover on there, and it's not working. So I'm just gonna try spraying it first with just the water, and then we'll see if I need to spray that on with some other type of sprayer to see if that works. All right, white tip, definitely not enough. So we're gonna go to the 25-degree green tip and see how that is. I don't wanna go too much further than that because I know these can really start causing some damage. All right, I'm gonna grab a sprayer and soak this down because this stuff is so nasty. I'm gonna try out this Home Armor in its pressure washer. It's supposed to be able to work across paint, siding, brick, so we'll try it out, and I'm just gonna put the concentrate into a sprayer bottle. I've not used this before, so we'll see how it works, but it looks like exactly what we need. Now, typically you would use the concentrate right into the siphon tube, but like I mentioned here, mine's not working. So I am gonna dilute this here just to make sure that it's not too strong. That seems about right. I think they were looking for somewhere around a 10-to-1, I think is what it is. Actually, I'll do just a little bit more. 10-to-1, perfect. Pressurize this and spray it on and let it sit for about 10 minutes and then come back and use the pressure washer to clean it off. And definitely be careful when you're spraying this stuff because it does have chemicals. I can definitely smell the bleach. Make sure you're wearing some eye protection and a shirt that you don't like, even though I do like this one. The pressure washer did a pretty good job. It removed a lot of stuff, but a lot of this is really, really hard and dried on. So I'm gonna grab a scrub brush and I'm gonna use the same concentrate and spray it on there. And I did glove up because I just don't wanna have my hands all up in bleach. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that. Also up on the gutters, if you get up under any of your shingles, that's really bad news. I kind of had it going up there and I was trying to avoid the roof, but I did at one point go over the roof and one of the shingles blew up. Very bad idea. So make sure you're either spraying like kind of more vertically so it won't actually go hit the roof, or you're spraying down on it. Because the last thing you want to do is hit a pressure washer into your shingles or into your soffits or siding for that matter. These guys are actually painted, and I think they're gonna be a lost cause because the algae is just really sticking to this old paint. So probably just gonna clean them up as best I can, and we'll have to come back and paint these again later or get new ones. But I think we just put some good exterior paint on there and it should be a lot better than what it is now. Yeah, that's working good. Whatever the pressure washer can't get, you can go back with a hard nylon bristle brush and get it off. And with this old, just caked on crud, you're probably gonna have to do that. So for cleaning your gutters, you can rent a pressure washer for about 75 bucks a day, add in $25 for cleaning supplies, and that's gonna put you right at $100. Now for this trim board right here, I don't wanna be spraying into this just because it can get under the soffit real easily. So I'm just grabbing a sponge, and this is actually working really nice just to kind of get some of that grime. It seems to be a bit more dirt than mold and caked on stuff like it is on the other one. So while you're up here, it's a great thing. Just clean everything through and yeah. A little elbow grease. Makes it all look better. All right, before I get up all these gutters up here, I gotta get rid of some of this nastiness, and this has just been overgrown like crazy, as you can see. That's why it's time for the machete. Anytime you can use a machete is a good day. All right, let's get at it. Woo! All right, machete did its job. Now it's time for the weed eater. Now, since we have the pressure washer out, the next thing I want to do is take care of the front porch as well as the walkway. So these are both exposed aggregate and they need to be resealed. They've not been resealed in quite some time. So before I get to resealing them, I want to pressure wash them. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and spray that cleaner on top of this as well to loosen up any grease or grime that we can come back through and use the rotary head to really get it nice and clean. Now, a much easier way to put this on is using the black tip on your pressure washer if your siphon hose works. Again, mine is not working, so I'm just gonna be using the bottle. All right, I'm gonna be using one of these surface cleaners, and I have always wanted one of these. These things look so cool. If you try to just do it by hand, what happens is you end up getting like streaks and lines, but what this does is this actually has two nozzles on the end of this rotating bar, and they're at an angle, so when it starts spraying, they go in a circular motion. And one of the reasons these work so well is because we have wheels here, and that's gonna keep it a consistent height from the concrete. And when you're doing the pressure washing, you're going back and forth, you always end up kind of moving that nozzle a little bit further or closer to the concrete. And so with the wheels and everything, this should work really well. So I'm excited to use this. Let's check it out, see how it works. There's a quick connect fitting right here, and all I have to do is put this on, and now I should be able to move around like that. So it's pretty cool. All right, I stopped halfway through just to take a look at it, and this is so much cleaner. You can see all the black spots and streaks over there. And with the aggregate, it's a little bit hard to tell. It's not as obvious as like a bright concrete, but you can see all the dirt that's coming off. This thing is working really well. Finish up the rest, and I'm also gonna do the entire sidewalk. All right, I got everything off, and I'm just gonna go back over it with a white tip just to make sure all that cleaner is off. So I'm gonna be staying pretty far away. I'm not blowing off any dirt, just making sure that it's all nice, clean water so it can dry and be ready for the sealer tomorrow. All right, well, I've got the pressure washer out, and this is another step. These stairs, the amount of moss and algae on here is wild, so I'm gonna go ahead and blast these things off, but we'll worry about these in a little bit later step. For power washing the concrete, you've already got the pressure washer and the cleaner from the prior project, and you can rent a surface cleaner attachment for 19 bucks a day, and you're good to go. All right, these first few projects, I was just sweating my face off. Those were a kind of hard, but let's get to some easy curb appeal projects. So the front door is basically the center of your entire curb appeal, and you want it looking nice. This door is kind of stuck straight out of the 80s, which is when this house was built. Don't love this color here. We also have really old door hardware, and got these knockers. I mean, everybody loves knockers. They're fun to play with, but now that we're in the digital age, I don't think we need them anymore. So we're gonna take this off, seal that little hole in the door, and repaint this, and this will be looking way better. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and take that knocker off, and it's actually just a couple screws from the back side. I should just be able to pry this bad boy off here now. All right, I definitely left some holes there, so I'm gonna fill those in. I'm gonna go ahead and take the door hardware off as well, and then I can just clean the whole door down. So after you get all the hardware off, now you can just sand everything, clean everything, and then we'll patch up any of those gaps in between the old paint, make everything nice and smooth. When you're painting, you probably already know, but prep is the most important part. And if you don't prep it right, then your paint job's not going to turn out great. And that could be just cleaning the dirt to get good adhesion, or also just keeping the details. I cleaned this left side here just with a paper towel and some cleaner, and it's really hard to get into the details. There's just some gunk and buildup in the corners. You're just gonna start losing the detail. And if you don't get in there, you know, it's just nasty. Just go the extra mile, get a bristle brush, be a perfectionist, and your life will be better, promise. No, I don't promise, don't hold me to that. All right, so we've got the big holes from the knocker here, and I'm just gonna use some 3/8 inch dowel and put some wood glue on there, hammer it in there, cut it flush, and then do it for the next one, and then we'll sand and flush everything, and then that'll basically make the door solid. Once we paint it, you won't be able to even tell that the holes were ever there. If you don't already have a flush trim saw, grab one, because these things are awesome. Use this all the time. Before I paint, I want to see if I'm going to need to cover up where the old door hardware was, because sometimes they match up, sometimes they don't. And yeah, that does not match up. So basically what I'm going to do is sand down all the seams in between the paint and where the old doorknob covered up. And so we can put this on there and make sure that you don't see any of the old outline of where the old hardware was. And of course, some good old plastic wood also worked great. And the pink plastic wood is my favorite because, kind of looks like Play-Doh. We're just gonna do a couple light coats on there just to smooth everything out. I'll come back and hand sand, and then everything should be good. Now, the cool part about that pink tinted stuff is that as soon as it's dry, it will go from pink to kind of the yellow brown. And it's so hot out here, it is going really fast. I do love that plastic wood filler. I got that at Lowe's, who is the sponsor of today's video. I'm gonna have links down below in the description where you can get all this material, but it is hot out here. And one of the cool things that I found while shopping on Lowe's online, which you should definitely check out because you can get almost everything online and save a trip to the store. And one of the things I found at Lowe's.com, we put in under the canopy, which we set up, and that is the Project Source Portable Misting Cooler Kit. This thing is awesome. This is basically a cooler that you can fill up with water, and you can put some ice in there or put an ice brick in there like I did. And then there is a little irrigation line that runs to 4 emitter misters, and it runs on a 12-volt battery. You plug that in, and then all you got to do, turn it on, and then you get mist coming out of here. And whether you're at the soccer field, you're at a project site, you're out camping, this is fantastic. This lowers the temperature by, I don't know, at least feels like 10 degrees. If you're out in the super hot like we are today, whew, this is nice. Link down below in the description. And there's one other thing that's really gonna come in handy when we start doing the landscaping. Another awesome item for managing curb appeal is this Dominator mulch anchor. It is basically a mulch glue. So it's gonna keep everything nice and tidy. You can check this out along with everything else that we used today down below in the description. A big thank you to Lowe's for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. All right, we're all nice and dry now. All that has turned into the wood color, and I'm just gonna hit it with a sanding sponge. You don't really wanna go anything electric. You just wanna do it by hand because it's easier to feather that way. If you ever decide to paint anything red, just know that when you go to repaint it, you're gonna be spending a lot of time. So whoever painted this door red, thank you for all the time I'm about to spend. So I am gonna prime it first, and then we'll see how many coats it takes. But red is just a notoriously hard color to cover. All right, we're all primed up, and instead of having the red, I'm gonna go with a nice Smurf blue. This definitely looks like a brighter blue than in the store. Hopefully it dries a little bit darker, but if not, you know, you only live once. Have a blue door. That is blue. The beauty of it is that, you know, 20 years somebody's gonna be cursing my name when they go to repaint this. You know, one time I heard a story about who invented the 6-panel door. There was a carpenter who found out that his wife was cheating on him with the painter. And he thought, you know what? I'm gonna show this guy something. And every time he paints a door, it's gonna be a huge pain in the butt. That's how it was invented. By the way, this is Valspar Satin Duramax Adriatic Sea. So if you want your door to look like Papa Smurf as well, just go ask for that color and you'll get what you desire. All right, we got the first coat on, and if you're just painting doors for the first time, it always looks horrible on the first coats. We're gonna do 1 more, maybe 2 more coats on this thing, and it's gonna be looking great. Trust the process, keep painting until it's all one nice solid color. For painting, you only need a quart of paint, a paintbrush, some wood filler, and some sanding supplies, and those all add up to right about $52. All right, we let the door dry overnight, and the paint is now cured enough. I did cover these holes overnight so that no bugs or anything would get in, and some of the paint did peel off. So I have to do a little bit of touch up, but this is gonna go in nicely right here, and we just need to drill a hole in the bottom that's going to accept this little part right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill that to start putting the locks in, and it's a pretty simple process. Now this should fit right in here. Now the door fits fine, but the deadbolt here is actually a little too big. And I'm just gonna use a rasp because it is barely too big. And if you try to expand a hole with a drill, something like this, it gets real gnarly real fast. There we go. So I test fit the hardware, everything looks good, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of a touch up before I put that on there because you don't wanna paint after you've got your doorknob on there because then you'd have to mask it and do all that crazy stuff. While I'm at it, there are a few spots on here that definitely need a little bit more, so I'm gonna go ahead and put another coat on there. All right, get this all touched up. Now these should go in nice and easy. Now for door hardware, obviously this can go from a simple knob and deadbolt from about 35 bucks up to about $150 for a set like we got. All right, these lights are just some contractor basic lights, so we're gonna put some ones on here that look a lot better. If you've never changed a light out, it's super simple to do. First of all, make sure you turn off your electricity so that you don't get a little shock. And normally, there's just a couple of little bolts that you can drop on the floor because it doesn't matter. Now we can pull this off, and we do have a little box in here, which is great. If you're still using slotted screws, why do you hate us? Manufacturers, everybody, what? Slotted screws. Those should never be used. Phillips head, Robertson, square drive, posi drive, anything but slotted, please, because they're a pain in the neck. Probably because my screwdriver's oversized, but this is Grandpappy's screwdriver. We're not taking any blame. Let's just use fingers, how about that? So here's the light that we're gonna be going with. It's kind of got a little arts and crafts style to it. I really dig. We'll put a little Edison bulb in there. It's gonna look great. And shout out to the folks from Quasimoto. Let me know, how would you pronounce this? But I don't know, but I do know that they're awesome because the screws that they gave us are Phillips head. Shout out to Queasel Squeezel. All right, so sometimes hanging lights can be a little bit awkward because you're trying to wire everything and hold it up there and mount it. And I really like what they have here. They have this little lanyard. And basically what you can do is you can put that into the bracket just like that. So now this guy can just hold itself up while you wire it, and then you can put it in place and screw it down. So we're just gonna go white with the whites. Get our hot wire. It's always good to give a little tug on the wires just to make sure they're in there nice and good. Around our ground wire. And the biggest hassle is usually just getting the wires back in the box. All right, there we go. Mandatory you drop at least one screw. Just go in your hole. Are you too good for your home? Whoop. Hey, that's a catch right there. On the lighting side, again, these are gonna vary by design from $20 to over $100. Ours came in right around $70 a piece for a total of $140. All right, nice easy upgrade. Next on the list is the stairs. Now, I have personally been avoiding this one because these stairs are in horrible shape. But for you, hopefully, all you need to do is maybe a little bit of tuck pointing. If you have any loose bricks, go ahead and take care of those. For me, this whole thing is just horribly degraded and these things are just moving and just out of place. We've got mortar just falling out. So there's gonna be a lot of work involved in these. Hopefully for you, it'll be nice and easy. Just top off the tuck pointing a little bit. All right, so what I'm gonna do is basically just take out any of the mortar joints that are completely loose and unattached, like this one right here, and see what I'm left with. And then basically I'll just come back in and refill all these mortar joints. Now, for these ones down here, these are just completely detached. This is really, really bad shape. So it's almost like I'm rebuilding the entire steps. And quite frankly, I want to do that with some better stone and make it look nice. But for right now, we're just gonna shore this up. Oh my gosh. These bricks are just falling apart too. This is really bad shape. All right, so a lot of this mortar is obviously still down here. I'm gonna try to chisel that away so we can get nice and clean and get a good connection to the stuff below it. Hit it, brother. What good's having a truck if you can't just give it hell going down a guy's street that's trying to make a YouTube video? All right, after starting to tear this apart, I'm realizing these are in just absolutely horrible shape. Even the bricks underneath the support are just a mess. And instead of trying to, polish this turd of a staircase, I'm just gonna tear it all out. We're gonna start from fresh. I might do something temporary with wood and then do stone later, but we gotta get rid of this. So just put a lot more work on our plate, but we'll get it done. Oh my gosh. All this stuff was just loose inside here. Wasn't even held together at all. Maybe a little bit of tobacco spit and hope and a dream. All right, well, those stairs actually came out pretty easy. They were not connected mechanically hardly at all. Hey, buddy, got a little snail here. I'm disturbing his home. Sorry about that. We'll get you relocated. With these stairs gone, now it just opens up the possibilities. That said, that is far beyond the scope of this video. So I'm gonna put in some temporary wooden stairs here, and I'd love to know what you think I should do with these. If I should pour concrete stairs, do something stone. I definitely wanna widen it now that we can basically start from fresh. But I think we could make something really cool here. So let me know down in the comments. What do you think I should do with them? But for the time being, we're just gonna act like this never happened and put some wood stairs here and move on. I'm gonna make some steps to go in the place of where I just tore down that nastiness of brick, but I don't wanna do something that's stringers and have to tie in because I wanna make it something that I can easily remove. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use some box steps. Now, box steps are basically just platforms on top of each other. I've got a couple fronts and backs here, and I've got some supports that are gonna go in between. I'm basically just gonna be making 3 little boxes, and then they will stack on top of each other, get screwed together, and then we can put them right in front of the porch. Having a couple of clamps to help you out is always a good idea. So this wood's kind of sticking out here a bit, and so we can just pull that in, clamp it up. If things are sticking out a little weird, you can just kind of get creative and move them into place. This is old construction lumber, and it's been outside, so it is a little warped and twisted. All right, so just like that, this is the base of our stairs, and now basically I'm gonna make 2 more that's exactly the same, except 10 inches shorter on each one. I got the box steps here, and they are ready to get installed, and I'm gonna just put them in right now and dry fit them. So I'm gonna start with the base one. We'll put it in there, see how much we need to shim, level it out, and then we can stack these on top and then get them all attached. That is actually perfectly level, which is quite amazing. I'm gonna go ahead and put the other ones in here and see how they stack up. This actually might be a problem. I wasn't thinking about that. Let me grab the stair treads and see if it actually fits under there, and I may have to shim these off the wall to make sure that that tread depth is the right depth. Ooh, and that just hits the top there. So to keep the full tread depth, I'm actually gonna have to space that off the wall. Wish I had thought about that before I built them, but that's okay. I cut a couple spacers here, also threw some stain on them so they'll match up. All right, so this should now just fit nicely right in here. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So this is nice and flush, and now I can have the stair tread right up against this, and that's gonna give me that full 11-inch tread. I got my filler piece, I already put the screws in it, and I'll have 1 screw into each of these pieces here to help hold everything together. All right, I'll do the same thing on the other side, and we'll attach the top and put it in place. The back is really nice and tied together, but just to keep this together, because this can still kind of lift up, I just cut a little scrap piece, and I'm going to screw this in between the two, and that's gonna attach everything together. I'll do it on both sides, get everything all nice and tight, and these stairs should be super sturdy. All right, let's get this sucker in here. And I'll just zap these in all the way, and we'll have a nice set of solid stairs. Now to build this set of stairs, I used 3 2x8s, 4 2x6s, and a box of deck screws for a total of 79 bucks. Yeah, stairs. Another great upgrade is getting fresh new paint on whatever you have in the front of your porch. For us, I've got some railings. You might have a porch rail and anything like that, a little gate. But you can see this needs definitely a touch-up job. I've already sanded down some of the old, but this is actually aluminum wraps that are around some posts. So another thing that you can do is you could actually wrap these. I was thinking about wrapping these in cedar, but I think the cedar with the red brick is not gonna be a good look. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put a fresh coat of paint on these posts, and just painting whatever you have is gonna be a great way to freshen things up. And do yourself a favor and go ahead and tape off around the bottom, because if you don't, then you're gonna end up getting paint on your concrete like somebody previously did on this porch, and then, you know, paint coming off of concrete or stone is not easy to get off. So just tape around it, make your life a little bit easier. So apparently there used to be railings on here, as you can tell by the holes in the wall and the nice coat of paint right around where that post would be. So same thing, when you're painting up against brick, make sure that you are sealing it off with tape. It's gonna look like that. Before you start painting, you wanna make sure that everything is wiped down nice and clean, and that you don't have any old dirt or grime or grease. And you can use like a degreaser cleaner is probably the best. Then just rinse it off with some fresh water. And you wanna use a nice exterior paint to make sure it holds up well in the elements. Now the real answer is to just get new gutters, but honestly, it's just not in the budget right now, and getting a little bit of coat of paint on there is gonna help it look okay, but this is obviously a temporary fix. New gutters is probably the way to go, because if you start painting something, you just have to keep painting it or replace it. putting some paint on your post and your trim. That's gonna be another quart of paint for 26 bucks. And again, you can use the same paint brushes as before. All right, coming back to the porch, this has been dry for a couple days now, so it is time to seal it. And I'm gonna be using this exposed aggregate concrete sealer. This is a brown. They also make it in just a clear, but the brown I think is gonna give us really nice, rich, warm tones. But one thing I wanna make sure I don't do is get it on the brick or on the columns. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by taping all that off, then we can jump in and start rolling it on. When I was a kid, we had an aggregate driveway at my house, and when we found little rocks like this, we used to just love it because we were like, we found a fossil. We thought we found like a dinosaur or something. It's probably like a dead snail. Don't tell my parents, but we would dig them out with a chisel and keep them. But we'll leave this one here. To apply the sealer, I'm gonna be using a roller brush here, and I'm using the big boy, the nice 18-incher, which is probably overkill, but that's fine. And as far as the nap goes, this is really a long nap. It's 1.25 inches, and that's gonna allow all the fibers to really get down in between all the aggregate and the nooks and crannies. So make sure you're using one with a long enough nap. And I'm just gonna pour this stuff in here and get to ripping. That's nice, that's real nice. You really don't want to get the roller too close to the edge. You don't want to get a bunch of dirt in it, which I've already kind of got some in mine. So you want to cut in. You can just use a little paintbrush. That's a oil-based paintbrush. And you're also going to be getting a bunch of junk in there as well. So, you know, do the best you can. I think it's going to turn out great. All right, just finished up with the sidewalk, and just quick public service announcement. This is absolutely disgusting. With the 1.5 inch nap, it just slings this oil everywhere. So this thing is gonna be completely ruined. You can see it's all down the pole. It's getting on my shoes and everywhere. So make sure that you know whatever you're using to put this on, it's basically gonna be thrown out afterwards because this just gets absolutely everywhere. All right, starting in on the porch, I'm gonna go ahead and cut in around the back wall as well as the columns. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut in on this front lip too, just because I think having that big 18-inch roller is just gonna be a mess. And then we'll do the deck at the end. Now, one thing to think about when you are up here on your porch, because of that overspray, you want to go parallel to your house, because if you're going towards it, you're going to be slinging all that stuff up on the walls. You're going to have to be careful around these posts too. So just be aware of where all the overspray is going so you don't get it where you don't want it. And like all things in life, always have an exit plan. Don't paint yourself into a corner and not be able to get out. And don't step in the paint pail either. That was a close one. I went through 2 gallons and I had a little bit left over, so I'm just kind of going through on the stuff I've already done, see if any places look a little bit dry, and just gonna use the rest of that on there. Now, on sealing the concrete, I went through 2 gallons of sealer at 35 bucks a piece, and then an 18-inch roller and a roller frame. Add in another 20 bucks for tape and liners and supplies, and that puts us in right around $131. Now, one thing a lot of people overlooked, and I'm looking at you, you probably have a shutter that has fallen off your house. I've walked around the neighborhoods, I know. So, you know, don't ignore it, because I've been ignoring this for 2 years. Don't be like me. We could put these back up, and a lot of times these are put in with some plastic concrete anchors, and what happens is they snap, just like this guy right here, And what you can basically do is drill into them and then put a screw into it, and it kind of acts like a plastic wall anchor. So that's what I'm gonna try to do, and we can get these back up here. All right, so most of these are out. I'm not gonna put screws in all of them because honestly, this is kind of just a temporary fix. But I just use a little drill bit and drill out the plastic anchor. It should be real easy to do, but much harder to do when it's over your head. Don't make me a liar. Now, when you put these back up, these little heads here, you can just pop them out, and that's where your screw can go back in, because that's where it snaps off. I'm gonna go with a little pan head screw here. That's all it takes, and you can get them right back up. We need a taller ladder. All right, much better. So that's the down and dirty, cheap and easy way to install those. You can also buy new plastic anchors, pull out the old ones and put these in. You can look online and find these guys. They're really cheap, but they're kind of a pain in the butt to use. So I'll just do the screws and paint the heads black, and from 5 feet away, you can't really tell. Now, because we have all this space, I'm gonna go ahead and put some of our furniture up here. And this is gonna be an awesome place to sit. Putting some outdoor furniture on the front porch is always a fantastic way to make it just feel more homey. These are actually the modern Adirondack chairs that I made a few years back. We have plans available if you want to build your own. These are great, and it's a nice alternative to the regular Adirondack chair, which is extremely hard to get out of. Adding some greenery to the front porch really makes things look a lot better, and some color. I don't know what these things are called, but they look pretty awesome. Also found these super cool solar lights. I love these. And there's some hooks that were already up here. I think that's a pretty cool look to round it out. And of course, don't forget the doormat. So this turned out amazing. We have really lifted the curb appeal, and we still have the beds to do, but I'm gonna worry about that later. I'd love to hear what you think about it. But if you wanna see some videos of other garden beds we've done, I got a video queued up for you right there. I'm Brad. Until next time, get out there and build something awesome.